My purpose today, we're going to talk about innovation, but we're going to do it through the lens of collaboration. So we're going to probably talk a little bit more about collaboration than we are about innovation. And the reason for that is most of you think you are good collaborators, and most of you come from organizations that think they are good partners. And the fact is that's probably not true. Everybody can improve in how they collaborate, and we'll talk about some ways to do that. And there is a generational issue on collaboration as well. So if I'm the baby boomer, actually I'm a year older than baby boomers, what I think collaboration is and what a 25-year-old thinks collaboration is are two different things. And understanding that is important for today's exercise. So hopefully we've got some generational differences at the table as well as differences of people you don't know. There are people in this room who know everybody, and I apologize for the fact that you couldn't find anybody you didn't know, but that's the way it's going to be. And then we're going to do this exercise, and the exercise is going to involve your changing your personality. We're going to tell you about 4 types of people, and you're going to act like one of those 4 types. You are actually a collaboration of all 4 types, depending on the problem you're trying to solve. But with respect to the problems we've chosen for you today, you will actually have to change your role, and we'll explain that to you in a minute. Innovation, for those who have heard me talk about it, innovation means transformation. I'm sorry I don't have any cartoons today, but an innovation only occurs if there's a transformation of process or a transformation of some sort of content. So think of innovation as large in scope. Changes the process of thousands of people. Innovation is nothing small. Innovation is not incremental, typically. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking to change the scope of the problems you'll be looking at. There's a concept called idea links. There's a guy named Jim Link. He's in the Twin Cities. He used to work for General Mills and is now consulting. He just wrote a book called Idea Links. I recommend that book to you, not because I get a feedback from Jim Link, but what it does is it explains something about innovation that most people don't understand. All of you in this room have a certain knowledge of a certain thing. You understand it implicitly. So you understand all the elements of it. When you see something that looks like that, but is not the same, you actually understand the elements of that second thing in a very unique way. So Jim's premise is that the innovators are people who are analytical. They're not the sparky, quirky, creative types, you know, we're going to have fun. They're the people who really understand at the bowels of an issue. They understand the elements of that issue. And they bring that to some other problem in a different discipline. And that's where the spark occurs. So that's what the idea link is. It's a forward and a backward understanding of some sort of issue or some sort of system. Third thing is heterogeneous networks. The reason we put you with strangers, to the extent that we've done that, is you typically don't learn anything from people who are like you. Now, your brothers and sisters may be an exception to that. But the fact of the matter is the more you hang around with people who look and have the same experience that you have, the less you tend to push the boundaries. So if I want to talk about chemistry, the worst, and learn new things about chemistry, the worst people for me to learn that from are people I went to graduate school with, because we all went through the same experience. If I'm a company looking to improve my chemical department, I don't basically hire everybody from the University of Nebraska. I want diversity. Sorry about the Nebraskans here. And then rarely direct, rarely quick. The other thing you learn about innovation is timing. You don't necessarily time inventions. I used to have a boss who wanted that. He would call me in and say, by next Thursday, I need this done. And I'd say, well, you're going to, you know, the laws of physics say you can't do that. So he says, all right, I'll give you till the Tuesday afterwards. You know, you don't time inventions, and you don't typically time innovations. But you can time the way people interact, and you can basically bring that forward. That's the premise we're working on today. So what's all this mean? Behavioral science tells that we each have a different capacity for collaboration. And collaboration in this case means trust and the ability to share. Depending on your experiences, you trust people who are different from you in different ways. So some of you have very low trust of others. Some people have very high trust of others. So if you're going to be a good collaborator, you must have at least built the capacity for trust in other people. So many of us think that we're good collaborators, and yet we're still pretty skeptical about strangers and about people who have different backgrounds. Experience tells us that our network of collaborators influences our ability to imagine solutions to problems. That's another premise for today's exercise. The more diversity you have in the room, the better chance you have of pushing the problem to its edges. And then finally, our ability to innovate is a function of how we frame problems, how we identify solutions, followed by a lot of other collaborators making our dreams a reality. When you think of innovation, I'm going to show you what the 4 types of people are, but there are other people who will come into your world to enable that innovation to occur. So if I'm the inventor of Post-it, there were thousands of people who brought that to market. It was not Art Fry and Spence Silver. They had an idea, but the expression of that idea went through a whole bunch of other people. And those people are just important in innovation as the people who came up with the original idea. Every sin is the result of collaboration. Just again, we're focusing our lens here. We're focusing our lens. Politeness is the poison of collaboration. You are Minnesotans. And as Minnesotans, you have a problem. And one of the problems is politeness. One of the problems is if it's on the table and it smells, you say it's on the table and it smells. You don't sugarcoat it, you don't talk around it, you don't move to the other side, you don't do all that kind of stuff. I come from the East Coast, I don't have a problem with this. But realize that when you're collaborating with somebody, honesty, integrity, those are very important in the discussions that we're going to have today. Honesty and integrity, openness. Also, you have to create in yourself the ability to be surprised. You have to create in yourself the ability to recognize surprise. Don't think you have the answer, don't think of the boundaries. The hardest problem in pure and applied science can only be solved by the open collaboration of the worldwide scientific community. The problems that we're going to give you are like these problems. If I want to solve global warming, I don't go into my laboratory with 3 other people and solve global warming. This is a problem that has a lot of dimensions to it, so I need a lot of people. And I need an open architecture that allows me to attack the problem in that way. So there's nothing closed about the problems you're going to be seeing today. There's no discrete solution. We're looking for a collaboration of 150 people to look at these things and have new ideas. The same way we do science. The same way we do science. Howard Rheingold, he's the creator of the virtual network. And what he did was he created a thing called Brainstorms, which is a private, successful web conferencing community. And the only people he lets into Brainstorms are people who are of goodwill. If you're going to be somebody who is a Twitterer or fooling around with it or using it for your own platform to talk, you basically get cut out. He's looking for serious people who are willing to have fun, but who are willing to approach solutions in a collaborative way. That's what this is all about. What we're trying to do today is we're trying to build community. And the point I want to make about community, you can have a community online. We could have done this online. But you have to understand that the definition of community, it relates with inclusivity, realism, self-awareness, vulnerability, commitment, openness, freedom, equality, and love of community. That's what we're trying to build. So if you're going to be good collaborators, you have to have all of those elements. And you don't find that on the web. It's very difficult to do that in a virtual way. It's better to do it face-to-face. So the other reason we brought you here today is the face-to-face component. That's what community starts with. Understanding networks, is it the most important literacy of the 21st century? I work a lot with young people, young meaning 30s and 40s. You're all young, right? The issue with the 30s and 40s is how do I build my network? And how do I recognize my network? What's it look like? What do I want it to be? And there are a lot of people who believe that the people who understand networks are the most successful people in the world. Everybody in this room, I would guess, has a pretty broad network. I know a lot of you. And you're well connected. But the idea of building your network is to also include those who are at the periphery of your network. And there is a saying that says, never underestimate the strength of weak ties. This is a throwaway line in most of my talks. But if you're going to go looking for a job, it's the people who are your longtime friends. They're not the ones that are going to find your job for you. It's the people you've just met. It's the people who have a weak tie to you. They know your brother. They know your sister. Never underestimate weak ties. And this is what you're forming today also. At the end of today, you will know 2 or 3 new people who are weak ties that you can call up to find something. In 3M, we make our living on this. The whole idea of success in 3M was to build your network and to have acquaintances that you know. If I want to know somebody who knows how to do a certain type of adhesive, I have an acquaintance. I don't know him or her. I basically have a weak tie to them. So never underestimate the strength of that. In the old days, when I was a kid, through mentoring, fellowship, volunteerism, job transfers, and outreach, collaboration occurred. You learned your collaboration skills by doing all those things. In today's world, you add to that the assumption that there are avenues for communication like Twitter, like Facebook, all the social networking. So you have another capability that we didn't have in the old days that allows you to have these weak ties. And my contention is that the best you can do online is weak ties. Unless you meet somebody face to face, it's a weak tie. Then the third thing is now we're finding that organizations, nonprofits, for-profits, companies, are more willing to partner because now you can't keep everything within your own doors. So even though you are competing as nonprofits or as profits, you are also collaborators. And we call it co-opetition. So you're cooperating as well as competing. And that's the scenario of how you want to work. You want to work in co-opetition. All right, let's start. We did some stuff in 3M and we studied innovation, and I've got permission to use some of this outside. And basically what these guys did is they said, what are the characteristics and networks of those who invent breakthrough ideas? What are the characteristics and networks of those who innovate breakthrough ideas? And then how are breakthroughs developed? And we're not going to go through the methodology. We don't have time for that, and I don't really have the stomach for it either. But basically the issue is this. There are 4 types of people involved with innovation. And again, 3M separates innovation and invention. You have to understand the difference. Invention is creating something new that may or may not, it's useful by definition, but it may or may not ever see the light of day. Innovation is something that goes into the world and changes the nature of how people behave or how they look in terms of a problem or its solution. Specialists. The definition of a specialist is somebody who has deep knowledge and deep understanding of a certain field. So specialists advance specific areas, don't look at broad applicability. They're solving a problem. They develop breakthroughs, and they are subject matter experts. For the problems that we're going to give you today, we're not expecting you to be a specialist. We're going to provide the specialist to you on a sheet of paper. And I'll tell you why in a few minutes. The second type is a person who is a scout. A scout is a person who doesn't have deep knowledge in any one discipline, but knows a lot about a lot. They're well-versed in a whole bunch of stuff. They're deep enough to understand that stuff. Okay, they're the idea link people. They're the people who really can kind of see connections. So scouts look for new connections of existing solutions. They look for new needs. They're critical for identifying breakthrough associative innovations. Normally what happens in 3M is somebody does an experiment, it doesn't work. You put it on the shelf. Some clown comes through scouting. They say, oh, this didn't work. I've got 5 other things you can do with this. And they basically bring it to the 5 other people, and all of a sudden that stuff starts to blossom. That's what scouts do. Third type of person is an adapter or an enabler. An enabler is not somebody who lives with somebody who drinks. Although a lot of the enablers in 3M probably lived with people who drank. They support new technology and application development. They advance products and technologies through capability development. They are the people who do stuff. So if I have a great idea and I need 1,000 people to make it happen, the adapters and the enablers are the 1,000 people. They're the ones who, when you give them an idea, say, that idea can't be done, but I can give you 5 other ways to do this, and it's almost the same thing. So they're the ones that enable the thing to get into the world. And then finally, there are architects. And the architects are the gods of the company. They're the people who build $1 billion worth of business because they can see how a technology becomes a technology platform. So an architect has breadth and depth, and they're few and far between. So these are people who apply their specific knowledge to a wide range of fields, are critical in identifying and leading breakthrough technologies. The archetype for the architects is a guy named Andy Odekirk. He has 350 patents. He's created 7 major businesses for the company, probably close to $4 or $5 billion worth of sales in the technologies that he's developed. And the odd part about Andy is he knew it when he did it. It wasn't serendipity. He literally sat down, drew it all out, and then went and did it. Specialists understand the nature of the problem, and they are the experts. Scouts, they're the ones who are broad and can look at problems in a different way because they see it through the lens of something else. Enablers, or basically adapters, are the people who make it happen. They're the practical people. And then finally, the architects are the ones who have breadth and depth. And it's interesting because if architects talk to other architects, nothing works. They learn nothing from each other. That's the interesting part about architects. They learn nothing from each other. So combinations of these people are important in how you combine them.